Okay, continuing where we left off with lichtbenchen and candle lighting. So the last thing we were discussing was, the difference you light it in all the rooms, or not the various different reasons for lighting candles. So now we're up to, it's appropriate, and this does not have to do with candle lighting, it has to do for a different reason. The custom is, always in the old Yiddish houses, but it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, that you should put the halachos on the table before you light the candles. Okay, you put the halachos on the table before you light the candles. Now, what's the reason for that? It's a reason not having to do with candle lighting. It has to do with muktzah. The candelabra that you lit with that Shabbos is completely muktzah, meaning you're not allowed to move it at all. Not only while the candles are burning, but even after the candles are extinguished, you're also not allowed to move the candelabra. That candles were lit that Shabbos, you're not allowed to move it for the duration of Shabbos. What happens if you have another candle holder on the table that you didn't light that Shabbos, and you need the place where it's on, so then you would be allowed to move it off. But the candelabra that as it's called in Yiddish, the leichter, that you lit the candles on that Shabbos, are completely muktzah. Why? When Shabbos begins, the flame is completely muktzah. The candelabra is a base of the muktzah, so the base of muktzah is also muktzah. Therefore, you can't move the candelabra. Now, if you put the candelabra on the table, so the table is also a base for the flame. So then, even let's say Friday night, the candles are out, finished. Shabbos morning, you're going to need to move the table for whatever reason it is. You wouldn't be allowed to move the table. Because the base... What? Well, the tablecloth is also a base. So I'm saying you couldn't... Well, if you want to move the tablecloth, unless you do Houdini, you pull the tablecloth and the candles don't move. But that's if you do... What?
What if you need the table to read the Torah?
That's what I'm saying. That candelabra that was lit that Shabbos is completely muktzah. The table is muktzah. The candle, you can't move it for any reason. Any reason. If it would be a regular candelabra that you didn't light that Shabbos, if you need the place, then you can move it. I understand. You can use the table, but you can't move it. So let's say for argument's sake, the candelabra is here, right? And on the table, and the end of the table. And you want to use this part of the table, there's no problem. You can use the table.
So you used to open the door.
I understand, but you can't move the candelabra out of the way. No, you can't. You're not allowed to. According to all opinions. You're not allowed to move the candelabra. But the table also becomes a base for the muktzah. So what happens Shabbos morning, let's say, for whatever reason, you need to move the table somewhere, you wouldn't be allowed to move the table. But there's a din, which when we get to muktzah, it's very complicated din, but the simplistic part of it is, if something is a base for muktzah and non-muktzah, and for you right now, the non-muktzah is more valuable to you at the present, not financial, just more valuable to you now than the muktzah item, so then you're allowed to move the table. So when you put halachos on the table, before you lit the candles, so now the table is a base for the muktzah candelabra, and it's also a base for the challah. And on Shabbos, right now, you wanted the challah is more important to you than the candelabras, which is already extinguished. So in that case, you would be allowed to move the table Shabbos morning. Now I do want to mention, there's a big argument in halacha. What happens, some people do it, and there are opinions that say you could do it, but there are opinions, you're going to get hurt. What happens if somebody you have a big tray, okay? And you put the candelabra on the tray. So now the tray is also muktzah. So even after the candles are extinguished, you still can't pick up the tray and move the candelabra away, right? So some people want to say, okay, so I'll put a siddur on the tray. The siddur is not muktzah. So then after the candles are out, so because the tray is a base for the muktzah and the non-muktzah, I can pick up the tray afterwards and move it away. And there are opinions in halacha that say you can do that. The problem is, Al Rebbe, you can't do that. because he said the tray is not made for the siddur or the challah. A table is made to put a siddur, a challah, So he doesn't, the Alter Rebbe doesn't hold of this leniency of putting things on a put a challah or a siddur on a tray to be able to move it later. So that's the reason why the old Jewish tradition is that before women light the candles, they put the challah on the table.
Would that apply to everything else you put on the table? Your befer, your bottle of wine.
That's not muktzah. Oh, you mean, instead of the challah? Yeah, but,
It's all the same.
Yeah, but what happens if somebody takes it off by, whatever.
If you put it back on, would it be acceptable, or it has to be before?
It has to be when Shabbos begins. When Shabbos begins, the muktzah and non-muktzah have to be on the table. Even if you take off the non-muktzah later, let's say you ate up the challah, but the fact when Shabbos began, because muktzah is again, we're not learning muktzah now. The concept of muktzah is when Shabbos began. If it's muktzah when Shabbos began, it's muktzah for the entire Shabbos. If it's not muktzah when Shabbos began, and nothing broke or anything like that, so even though the halachos are not there anymore, you ate them up, so you could still move the table. What?
Why are the halachos more important to you than the candles?
Because right now you're not interested, you want to eat the challah, you're not interested in doing what with a candelabra that's not lit anymore. Candelabra could be worth $5,000, and the challah, depending which bakery you buy, could also be $100.
Is it not the flame that's the use?
The flame is what's muktzah.
So why do we have to light it on the dining room table?
Oh, so now the question is, why do you have to light the candles on the table? Why can't you light them off the table? And many people, for that reason, other reasons, because they want to use the whole table, even Friday night. But the Rebbe told various places, Mechonchana and different places, the Rebbe told them there should be at least 1 or 2 candles on the table. Whatever. That's what the Rebbe told them when he went to visit them by Pesach Seder. But again, a lot of people don't put it exactly for that reason. You have a table full of guests. Or you have kids. You don't want the kids in the middle of the meal knocking over the...
There's no little kids.
Yeah, I know, but the Rebbe told me there was whatever. But again, so that's...
It was just for that group? You
No,
can't say that.
no, it didn't sound like that. That's...
Rabbi, is there a kosher way then, if you have a candelabra on a tray, you would still kosher way on Shabbos?
But like a vase.
Not according to the Alter Rebbe.
But even like a flower vase that it's beautified with a tray, like this, siddur is no shaykhs, like it doesn't make any sense. But if you put something that made sense, that enhanced it, like a vase of flowers.
If you have a massive tray, which is normally for candelabras and flowers, then you'd be right. But normally you have a candelabra tray that's a little bit bigger than the candelabra, the leichter. It's not, it's fooling. I mean, it's not realistic.
Can you ask a boy to do it?
To move muktzah, okay, again, we're not learning muktzah. There are certain times that it says in Shulchan Aruch, but it's interesting, that you can ask a guy to move muktzah, but the Alter Rebbe says you shouldn't tell people that because they will misuse the leniency of a guy for everything else. And the leniency was only muktzah, which is anyway rabbinic only, so whatever. What?
How did muktzah come about?
Okay, we're not learning muktzah. No, muktzah came about.
We're recovering a lot of material.
Muktzah came about in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, when they came to rebuild the second Bais Din. So the Jews were extremely, extremely lax in keeping Shabbos. So when you get too lax, you got to pull the string tighter. So Nehemiah, the Isser of Muktzah originated from Nehemiah. Ezra and Nehemiah, at the time, that's why it's Vaad Rabbonim, it's not from the Torah. He said originally, you cannot move anything on Shabbos except cutlery and plates, and that's it. You can't move anything on Shabbos. Okay? Then as people started getting more involved in keeping Shabbos, they went lax until they find the law of Muktzah. Now why did the Chachamim forbid Muktzah? There's like 4 reasons. Basically because if you carry something, you might come to carry it in the street. You'll carry it out of the house. Other people didn't work a whole week, so how do you see Shabbos for them? By having muktzah, not to move things. Or, there are various different things. Another reason is if the Chum said you can't walk on Shabbos like you do during the week, you're not allowed to run. You can't talk on Shabbos during the week. You can't talk business. You just killed all the minyanim. That you can't do certain things on Shabbos. So they said you shouldn't be moving things. But by the way, muktzah is not touching. Muktzah is moving. You could touch muktzah. This table that's a base, not this. This table that was a base for candelabra that's muktzah. Yeah, you just can't move it, but you could touch it. You could use it, except the tree. But that's a different thing. What?
I'm just thinking. You once mentioned that one of the reasons the book is about because people who never work all.
I said that just now. People that don't work a whole week, like Jew. I just said that. Yeah.
I gotta get my hearing.
You can hear it again when you take it home.
Also because there was an community where they could marry.
I'm saying, okay, we're not, guys, muktzah is long and complicated, and we're not learning muktzah now. We're learning lichbench. I just explained the reason why you put the challah on the table. What?
One of the reasons they might come to use it, use it to do halachos, no?
What are you going to do with malacha with a candelabra?
I don't know. If you make it pain, when you start writing.
One of the reasons you will come to do a malacha, but not necessarily with that particular thing. So the Chamin Pasuk said, you know,
What did you say to be going before Shabbat? That you plan to do Shabbat is
that case probably would be okay. But there's certain times when a non-Jew does things for you on Shabbos, not only are you not allowed to tell him to do it, if he does it, you have to stop him. In this case, you wouldn't have to stop him. But like if you have a guy coming to cut your lawn on Shabbos, you know, the gardener comes on Shabbos, you have to stop him.
Even though he decided on his own accord.
You have to stop him.
You have to also?
Yeah.
Or vacuum your carpet.
In the house, yeah, you'd have to stop him. Yeah, you'd have to, certain things.
Gardener Day is a Yom Tov day. I gotta tell him you can't come then.
Correct. And if he comes and you're home, if you're not home, then you don't know. Right? But if the gardener comes and you're home, you have to tell him, sorry, you cannot, you have to pay him. By the way, halachically you have to pay him. The interesting story with the Rebbe, there was a handyman in Crown Heights. Very long time, a black guy. He was very nice. He was doing a lot of handiwork in a lot of houses. And then they needed something done in the Rebbe's house, so they asked him to come to the Rebbe's house. He didn't know it was the Rebbe's house. Okay? So when he came into the house, he asked, like, one of the workers in the house, you know, it's funny, I work in a lot of these Crown Heights houses. Every house has a picture of the Rebbe. Why doesn't this house have a picture of the Rebbe? He was like, this Schwarzer guy was shocked. He said, every house I work in Crown Heights has a picture of the Rebbe. And this house doesn't have a picture of the Rebbe. He doesn't understand why. Like, what are you, not Chabad? You know? So they told him this is the original. Okay? So he did the work, and afterwards he said, I'm not taking money. I'm not going to take money. So the Rebbe heard about this, and he said no. He said if he came with the intent of not taking money to begin with, fine. But when he came to work, his intent was to work and to get paid. So then, now, if he came with that intent, you have to pay him. And the Rebbe made sure they paid him. So if a gardener is coming to your house with the intention of working, and you tell him, get lost, halachically, you have to pay him.
How do you force them to take it?
I don't think you have to force them too much. And if they're Jewish, for sure you don't have to force them too much.
The Jewish Messiah can go.
Huh?
The Jewish Messiah can go.
That's a separate issue.
But what's not like, I get the more practical example, let's say a housekeeper comes in, like Yom Tov, and for Shabbos it's one thing because you could easily train someone with some...
If they come on Yom Tov, they cannot do laundry, they cannot vacuum in the house.
Saying if you told them, and let's just say, hablo and inglés not very good. The message didn't make it
No
across.
cabrando, what you said.
Right, I was trying that's the best of my... So the point is, she runs the machine. Once the machine's active...
What machine?
The washer. She put it in the washer.
You have to stop it.
Pull out the plug.
To close it.
I gotta tell her, I need you to... No, usually once the machine starts running, there's no...
Okay, but that's another issue. It's called Af Shemil. So, you know what? We're not learning Hilchos Shabbos tonight. You know, Machashin is on my side, my Mechabel, my Kim Shvala Galtero, and then Rakashi Medat.